For today, we're playing Forza Motorsport with the RTX 2070. And to start off, we're playing the game at 1080p at the lowest settings. Alright, going to the settings and video. Again, here we are at 1080p and at the lowest settings. There we go there. Alright, so the game is officially out now. I personally didn't get an update for day one, so I don't have high hopes for DLSS getting fixed. But I will try it out, and if it actually works, I will play at 140p and 4K as well. And if it doesn't, we'll just stick with 1080p and go from there. Alright, let's start counting the FPS. There we go. So far so good in the 100s. And the game, to be honest, looks pretty good as well. This is a decent looking game. I'm seeing a bunch of posts online about how this game looks really bad. But for me personally, it looks pretty good still. I think it looks the best during the rainy days. But on a clear day, it's still quite good. And again, this is at the lowest settings. So it can look much better at those higher presets. And for performance, again in the 100s, here I'm sitting at 5 gigs. It's doing really nicely. Oh, come on, dude. Look at this. What a bad corner. Sorry, guys. Let me get into the track real quick. And I get inside. FPS is unaffected. Alright, I'm going to go on the outside and overtake this guy like it's nobody's business. Look at that. I'm going to brake late. Hopefully it pays off. And it does. I think I'm in second place. Oh, 130 FPS here. That's fantastic. Quite crazy with this card. Okay, let's back out here. Do a race on a rainy day and see how this card does and how the FPS falls. Alright, rainy day. I'm going to go ahead and start counting the FPS. There we go. We're now in the 90s. So, quite an FPS dip, but still way above 60. Now, one lie, the graphics are actually worse. It's feeling a bit hazy at this point in the distance. I'm not a big fan of that. Oh, my brakes are so bad in the rain. Makes sense. I was racing like it was a clear day. Oops. I've got to be more careful about that. Come on, you can do this. Yeah, it's doing great, guys. Way above 60. And I think for online races, the FPS is capped to 60 anyway, so the extra FPS is kind of pointless for PC. But if you don't play online, then I guess it does make sense for you to have those extra frames. So yeah, the graphics on the car are pretty good still, but the stuff in the distance is very hazy and kind of blurry. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm going to try to catch up though. This Ferrari's kind of blocking me. I can actually go through the inside and just hit him by accident. Sorry about that. There we go. Something to keep in mind is that this game is quite CPU intensive. So if you got a weaker CPU, your FPS might be lower than this. Okay, that's the lowest settings. Let's back out, play the game at the medium settings, and go again. Whoa! And here we are at the medium preset. Alright, medium settings. Again, no RT. Let's see what we're working with. Wow. Let's count the FPS. There we go. It's quite good, guys. It's very similar to the low settings. And the graphics are quite similar too, unfortunately. It's not a massive jump. Easy overtakes. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Sorry. I just rammed the Bentley and a Ford GT. Sorry about that, guys. My foot slipped. Ooh, look at the damage model too. It's just kind of scratching. I can't really see any dents, unfortunately. So far so good, guys. Again, no stutters, no lag spikes. It's playing beautifully. VRAM's up a little bit at 5.2 gigs, but this card has 8, so we are doing just fine. Look at this. This Porsche is going crazy, dude. Brake, brake, brake. Turn, come on, full speed ahead. I'm not a big fan of the hazing or the blur in the distance at 1080p. If you do play at a high resolution, it's not as obvious, but at 1080p it definitely is. And I think it's my biggest issue with the graphics in this game. Okay, first place. Easy peasy. Let's back out and race in the rain and go again. Ooh! Look at my car. Brand new basically. No dents. Let's go. And I think for Forza, I will do one more video with a 3050. And by that time, we should have the MW3 beta. So, yeah, should be a good transition. In the 80s still. Doing just fine. Alright. In the 90s. Doing fantastic still in this card. Way above 60, obviously. And the game isn't stuttering or lagging at all. It's running perfectly. Okay, let's back out, enable RT, and see how this card does there. Alright, medium RT. VRAM is up to 6 gigs now, from 5.2. But the game is bugging out a little bit. Look at the mirrors, for example. It's blacking out. And the FPS is now down into the 60s instead of the 90s. So a massive FPS dip. Oh, this is bad. Sorry, boys. And no penalty either. Just hit him in the back. And the game was like, you know what, that's fair. That is fair. The game is still playable, obviously. It does fall into the 50s occasionally, but overall, on average, it's sitting in the 60s, which is fantastic. Dude, that Corvette is ahead. Look at that guy. He is so far ahead. Let's see if we can catch him. Move, Bentley. There we go. That was a decent corner. In between real quick, sandwich in. That Corvette is mine. Come on, full speed. This Porsche is cracked. It's going crazy. What's up, buddy? Boom! What? His car barely moved. And no penalty either. Thank you, game. No penalties out here. Alright, there we go. That's medium settings with RT enabled. It's still playable, but it's kind of risky since the game had some issues here and there. Alright, and here we are at the high settings. No RT yet, but I'll use it as we go through. Playing at the highest settings. No RT. We're now sitting in the 70s and 80s. Let's count the FPS. There we go. Our VRAM is now sitting at 6.8 gigs instead of 5.2, I believe, at the medium settings with no RT. So it's a massive jump. And again, this card only has 8, so it might be an issue at the max preset with RT enabled. But so far at the high settings, it's doing just fine. And this car's handling is kind of trash. But yeah, FPS wise, we're in the 80s and 70s. It's doing fantastic. There's no stutters, there's no lag spikes. It's playing just fine. Move, dude. Get out of the way. These cars are glued to the racing line. Glued to it. So yeah, again, the high settings is very much playable. And we still have plenty of headroom in case of a heavier scene like a rainy day. Rainy day. Count the FPS once we get into the game. There we go. The high 70s so far. It's a bit worse, but not by much, to be honest. But yeah, instead of the 80s, we're sitting in the 70s on average pretty much. It's the high 70s, but still slightly worse. And yeah, all around a good time. But now the question is RT even viable at this preset? Let's back out and try it out. Not a good start. Down to 40 FPS here. It's the mid 50s to be fair. And the VRAM is now sitting at 7.7 gigs. It's maxed out pretty much. And the game is feeling kind of stuttery and choppy. And I think the grass is also flickering a little bit as well. It's very distracting. Yeah, the grass is definitely flickering. So yeah, the high settings using RT isn't really viable. You can try it out, but personally I wouldn't do it. It just has too many issues that wasn't actually present at the medium settings, like the grass flickering for example. And obviously the stutters aren't helping the case either. Okay, let's back out, enable DLSS, see if it's actually been fixed. And if it has, maybe it will be playable then. Now using DLSS at the balance preset, again we had the high 40s and the mid 50s without DLSS. So if we can get 60 and above, then obviously it's working. Yeah, so far not too good. It's very similar in the mid 50s. And the stuttering is about the same, to be honest. I can't really feel any differences to it. Regardless, it's a pretty poor experience. Alright, playing at the ultra settings with no RT. Is this playable? Let's see. The mid 70s. Quite fantastic, to be honest. So it should run quite nicely all around. And the VRAM is now down to 6.6 gigs as well. It's definitely in a much better spot, that's for sure. The entire track is filled with BMWs. What's going on? Everyone has a BMW except for me. Yeah, so far guys, it's beautiful. Not lagging, not stuttering at all. It's running at above 60 FPS the entire way through. In the rain, it will be a different story though. It might fall down into, I guess, the mid 60s instead of the 70s, but still should be quite fine, as 60 FPS is the target anyway. Alright, sick drift there. Alright, let's back out, do a race in the rain. Go again. It's getting quite close, to be honest. It's the low 60s, but hopefully it doesn't fall into the high 50s during the race. Gonna thread the needle, come on! Yeah! It mostly worked. What are you doing, dude? Come on. I look at the numbers for a second and I'm just ramming your car by accident. Why are you turning in front of me like that? So yeah, overall at the ultra settings, the game is still playable at 60 FPS. To my knowledge, it stayed above 60 FPS the entire way through. And to be honest, it felt fine. There was no stutters, no lag spikes. It was playing fine. Final race at the max settings with RT enabled. Here we are. 38 FPS. And again, the lighting and the shadows are kind of buggy at this high preset. At the medium settings, it was kind of there on the mirrors, but couldn't really see it on the track. But at the high settings and above, we did get some flickers and some weird issues with the lighting. Whoa, look at him spin, look at him spin out. Okay, I think that's about it. That's Forza Motorsport with the RTX 2070. Again, the game is very much playable at 60 FPS and above, all the way up to the ultra settings, but that's only if you disable RT. If you enable RT, it's a whole different story. The game will stutter, the game will lag occasionally, and the FPS will be below 60. I think at the high preset and above, I believe at the medium settings was still playable. So yeah, it's really up to you. I would personally avoid it, but if you want to use it, you can. Just use the medium preset. Okay, I think that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for the video. See you guys there.